Welcome to another episode of the Steal a Moment podcast with me, Michael LeBois. Today's guest is CBS 4's own Justin Adams, a native Coloradan just like myself, and now a sports anchor and news anchor for CBS 4 here in Denver, Colorado. Justin and I met through our mutual connections, and I believe he was a professor of mine for a short period of time at the Colorado Media School. Justin and I talk about what it takes to get into the media industry, what you need to do while you're there, and how to say yes to opportunities that help grow your name and brand within the industry. It's been fun talking to some of these different media types from both radio and television, as that field alone kind of creates a different vibe all around. You don't hear much about news anchors who stay in cities and states for extended periods of time, and some of the ones in Colorado have lasted a very long time. Justin and I also talk about the state of the Denver Broncos as well as Colorado. Unfortunately, this conversation was before the insanity that was the Nolan Arenado trade to the St. Louis Cardinals, for all of you sports fans out there. I'd like to thank everybody for joining the channel here today. We are up to 54 subs on this channel as it stands right now, so we'll hopefully get that number up. If you have friends who like podcasts and enjoy good interviews or just interviews in general, I can't really say whether or not they're good or not, head on over to the YouTube channel if you're not watching this already. If you're listening to it, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for listening. If you are watching this on YouTube and you are not subscribed yet, please click the subscription button down below, as well as the bell notification to make sure you guys know when new episodes will show up. We may be changing the date here in the near future. Just a heads up on that front. Also, if you guys haven't had a chance, head over to Chick's channel. She's growing as well, as we have some episodes of our playthrough of The Forest, which we did a couple weeks back, and also a bunch of other amazing stuff. She's doing the house builder simulator, as well as I believe she has some Fall Guys stuff that she's doing right now, which is fantastic. So head over there if you guys get a chance. Check out our videos, like, comment, subscribe, give her any information you want. If you do go over there from here, please leave an eagle in the comments. Just say eagle if you want. We have one right here. That's why I'm bringing that up. If you guys make it this far in the video, leave Fox in the comments below and let me know that you guys are at least paying attention and watching this. We'd love to have you. Also, head over to Gunpowder Empire's YouTube page, as we have a new cover up there, a cover of Crossfades Cold, and we have a couple other new things coming your way here shortly, including a new single, Evil Within, which will be out on the 12th of February. So excited for that. Here's a sample right here.
Can you hear him? Can you see him? Can you feel him? They can't hear me. They can't see me. They can't!
Also, if you guys have any suggestions for guests, please bring them to me. Candace, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much for guest suggestions. Some of those are on their way, working on getting some new guests lined up for you guys here as we continue into this 2021. Yeah, I think that covers all of the promo we've got coming up. If you guys have any suggestions, please leave it in the comments below. And with that being said, Justin and I would like to steal a moment. Kind of a nice couple of years for you here, 2019 into 2020, into 2021, making the moves up in the ranks. How's it working for CBS 4, and is this sort of a dream come true for you?
In many respects, it kind of is, Michael. It's fun to be able to be at Channel 4 and just to tell stories. I think that's the biggest thing is that, you live your life just wanting an opportunity to tell stories, and to also getting the chance to anchor is, especially news anchor, is something that I'm so happy to have the opportunity to be able to do. But just to be able to do that, to do sports as well, to do so many different things. I don't think even in your wildest dreams you could imagine being able to have the opportunity to do that. So it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Coming from a place, for those of you who don't know, we are based in Denver. And Justin here is one of the anchors, started with sports and now does some news on the side as well for CBS 4 here in Denver, Colorado. Also, just like me, a native. So proud to see that as well. I grew up in southeast Denver on the border between Aurora and Denver. And then you grew up in Montbello, right? So that's got to be kind of even a nicer change, coming from Montbello into this world of media and everything, right?
Yeah, coming in from Northeast Denver. I remember you could count on your hand how many African American anchors they were. From the Bertha Lynn's, Kevin Cork doing sports now with Fox News. There were only so many that you saw, and so for me, I always thought, oh man, it would be great to be on there. Even in college, you go after it, right? But then once you're there, you're just like, wow, this is amazing. And sometimes you don't have much time to come up for air. You don't understand truly the impact that you're making. You're just trying to do the best job that you can every day. But when you get a chance to sit back a little bit, you look over and say, wow, it's amazing to be a local kid growing up watching Channel 4, and to be able to be on there is a true blessing. It's amazing.
It's one of those crazy things when, not going to lie, the first time I saw you on air, I looked up and I was with my parents. I was like, I know him. That's Justin. We did stuff together at the Colorado Media School. It was awesome. I was like, that's great. Like, I was so pumped because, like, it's always nice to see the people in your personal life achieving goals and moving forward and getting those opportunities. And the other day I was over there, over at my parents' house, saw him for the first time since, I think, June for Christmas. And I was like, oh, you guys are watching Channel 4? Oh, there's Justin. Like, it's nice to just be able to point that out and be excited for people in my life. And, it's great to see progression and change for anybody in our field, media or otherwise, who are moving forward and showing that progression in those different ranges. I know sometimes it's funny. People don't realize that just because you're a sports anchor doesn't mean you're going to be a sports anchor for the rest of your life. Some of you guys have bigger goals. Right. I actually went to high school with Bertha Lynn's kids. They were nice. Right around me in school. Andrew and oh man, his sister's name escapes me at the moment. But yeah, I went to school with Andrew. So that was a lot of fun. I went to Mullen, so I'm still a Denver kid as well.
Come on, Mullen. Come on, Mustang in the house. I see you.
Yeah, we had a couple guys from Montbello who legally transferred to our high school when I was there, and you know the rumors.
Oh, I know the truth. No, don't say rumors now. I know that the truth will set you free. I'll put it that way. I know what was going on.
Okay. Yeah. But one of the guys was a good friend of mine and a big reason why we won a state championship my senior year. So I'll take that. I was there during the beginning of the Logan era. So I got to see what Dave Logan was all about. What is it like being a Colorado native, playing at the University of Colorado, and now seeing how Colorado sports has kind of grown as a whole, the high school level specifically?
It's interesting to see every facet of Colorado sports, growing up, playing from Pee Wee, with the Montbello Falcons, representing Falcon Park and everything, Northeast Denver. But growing up from the AYL League, Aurora Youth League, to going and playing at Montbello High School. They go from there and walking on to the University of Colorado. I'm saying I'm a proud Buff, but there's a reason why I chose this room, okay? You see here, right? I'm a proud Buff, okay? I love my Buffaloes. But to be able to not only play for the black and gold and wear that black and gold, but to come out of it and understand the business behind it, understand the stories behind it, understand how media works as well. Being a person who was in the locker room, on the field, now you're off the field, you get a chance to connect with guys in a different way. So when I go in the Broncos locker room, or the Nuggets, or even the Buffs locker room, it's different now because I understand, okay, how does an 18 to a 23-year-old, react to certain questions? How does a high schooler, how would he react to certain questions? Still trying to figure things out in his own life or her own life. And then even going to a professional locker room and you're talking to grown men, literally, I believe one person said this, you're talking to 53 CEOs of their own business in many respects, right? And so everyone's different. So how do you go and do that? It's fun to be able to grow up that way through Colorado, to understand what it means to be from Colorado, to play at altitude, to play at 5280. But it's such a blessing to be able to know that and then to go into the locker room and apply that to what I do on air as well.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. Being a fan of sports and playing through high school, not quite making it to the college level. Unfortunately, I wanted to be a basketball player, but I am 5'7" and 160 pounds on a good day. So that dream kind of got quashed as a sophomore at Mullen. When you're
Nothing wrong with that.
No, but at the end of the day, I have a passion for it. So I went to the other side of the coin. I did the Bob Costas thing and started doing the broadcasting side. And looking through your bio at CBS 4, I did not know that you are the voice of the Regis Rangers.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Tell me how you got involved with them.
Well, it's really a funny story how that happened. I was working at Channel 7 actually at the time. I could tell the story now, being at Channel 4, but my first job in the business was at Channel 7. Video editor and digital content producer, so writing stories on the web as well. And I just remember when I was working for the Now National show that one of the things I wanted to do was do play-by-play. That was extremely important for me to do that, Michael. And so what I did was I literally got down every email address for every school in the RMAC because I knew as a novice, I'm not good enough to go to University of Colorado to be Mark Johnson or be at CSU where Brian Roth is right now at the time. So I emailed every school in the RMAC that was locally in Denver. So I even went down to, Adams State, Alamosa. I emailed everybody. And the one school that got back to me, Metro State got back to me, but they already had their own little program set up. But Regis University, they got back to me. And they're saying, hey, we have a guy who's doing some things now, but he may, be leaving. So long and short of it, just stuck around, did a couple of volleyball games, never did volleyball before in my life. And that's kind of one of the things within the business is that when they say, have you done this? You always say yes. Even if you have no idea what you're doing, you always say yes, and you just figure it out. You call somebody, you go on YouTube, you figure it out. So I figured out how to do volleyball. And then it just so happened that I continue to connect with the athletic director. We have a great relationship, David Spafford, who does a fabulous job at Regis University. And I just continue to do games from there. And lo and behold, I've been doing it for 5 years now at Regis University. So it's been a huge blessing to be able to do there. I'm not doing as many games this year as I would want to do because of coronavirus. And so kind of had to step back just a little bit from there, but I still make sure to make a presence there at Regis University with their athletics and with their games as well. And also the biggest thing I think a lot of people miss is that you're not just the voice of a team, you're the voice of a community. You have to understand that, not just of a team, not just of a university, but of a community, alums, fans, parents, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, you are the voice for all of them. So it's important that you always bring your best to the table every day because you are literally the ear for the team, or rather the voice for the team.
And Regis, from what I remember, has a pretty solid volleyball program in general. So,
yep, they got all the way to the Final Four last year. And I mean, they lost 3-1, but they had a tremendous team. And come back this year, they have to play in the spring, and they're ranked 5th. Wow. So Joe List, who, now you're going to make me go into my repertoire with Regis University, but Joe List, to me, and I know we're recorded, so I have no problem saying this, Joe List is a Division I head coach.
Ooh, okay.
I've been able to talk to him. The people that he puts around him, is just amazing. He is a Division I head coach, and anyone who hires him and his staff will get one of the most experienced coaches that I've seen in volleyball. I mean, details it well. I'm a football guy,
Yeah.
and he's able to break it down for me in such a way where it's like, this guy's amazing. So I really very high on Joe List and the work that he's doing at Regis University.
That is amazing. I mean, if you need proof, I'm not a huge volleyball guy, but I know that Regis has a solid volleyball program. Now, I'm a Metro alum, so I can't go too far off that RMAC track to root for the Rangers. Go Roadrunners forever. But it's always fun to get into those things. I also do play-by-play on the side. I work for Amy Foucher.
Yeah, come on, Amy.
Yeah, for School Space. So I got to do some football games this year. I got to watch Dakota Ridge, who dominated 4A this year with some amazing young players. A couple of guys going D1, some of them going D2, but definitely some talent on that roster for sure. But I got my foot in the door by doing volleyball and being willing to say yes to anything. Ironically enough, I played volleyball in grade school, so I knew enough to get by. And when I was actually at the Colorado Media School, we were working the Crossroads tournament, which I live in downtown Denver now, is at the convention center, which is like right there, over there.
Colorado Crossroads, yep.
Yeah, and one of the play-by-play guys, one of their regular guys for the network that I was working for at the time, or volunteering for at the time, lost his voice. And they were like, what are we going to do? And I was like, I can do it. They're like, really? I was like, yeah, just give me the rosters. I'll do it. And I called 5 games that day and ended up calling 3 more the next day for these 14 to 18-year-old girls who are committed to D1 colleges. I saw a 14-year-old girl who was 5'11", spiking on these girls, and she's probably at Nebraska now, like playing Big Ten volleyball. Yeah. But it's one of those situations where if you just take the time to say you can do something, and then if you're thrown to the wolves, do your best. Ask questions and find an opportunity. That's all this is. That's what this industry is, really, if you think about it, is finding your opportunity, finding your windows, and in keeping those connections. I was really lucky today. I actually this is my second interview today. I took my lunch break to do one, and I interviewed former Broncos, current Saints wide receiver Benny Fowler.
Nice.
And Benny and I were talking about networking. And that's one of the things I learned at the media school. It is important to foster those relationships and really work to develop your network. How important has your network been to kind of where you've gotten now?
Your network is your net worth. If there aren't any decision makers who know you, if there aren't anybody who could vouch for you, then you could send as many applications as you want. You could send as many resume tapes as you want. It's not going to happen. It's so important to be able to network with people and to be able to know where you want to go. That's what helped me at Channel 4. I was doing radio at KOA and, spoke with the program director at KOA and said, hey, I would like to, get into TV and do different things like that. You see the great work I'm doing in radio. I'd like to, get into TV. Sent off an email to Tim Whelan, and there we go from there, who's a news director at Channel 4. But that's how you start relationships. And even the relationship that I had with Tim was over 2 to 3 years before anything happened from there. And so it's important to go to networking events. It's important to make cold calls. It's just important to be known, to know people. And there's a reason why. And it's not just in journalism. It's in every industry. Right? It's not just journalism. You could think of any type of industry. If someone knows you, that's going to help you out. But for sure, you got to make sure that you bring your best to the table, and you got to be sure that you know how to do the job. I can know the CEO to ESPN. If I don't know how to read these highlights, if I don't know how to read the teleprompter, then it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get the job. And so it's important that you, part of kind of the pie and getting to where you want to be is getting to know somebody. Know where you want to go, know the people that you want. Like if you want to work at CBS, get to know people within CBS. Have someone vouch for you, and then go from there. Those are the best things I could say about networking, because that's huge. Networking is absolutely everything. We're all built off of relationships anyway, so it's extremely important.
And that's one of the things that's vital to, exactly like you said, any industry. If you can see over my, I guess that's my left shoulder, bass guitar. I'm a musician as well. The connections I've made through music in my lifetime have helped me create a brand in music. The ability to communicate that I've done the things that I've done in the music world have helped me make connections with people in the music world. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand necessarily about the value of networking, is that we have to, exactly like you said, you have to prove that you can do the things you present. And you have to make sure that you are capable of standing up to the words that you give. So I can't sit here, exactly like you said, I can't go to the CEO of ESPN. I don't care if I have his number. I could call him tomorrow and be like, hey, give me an interview. And he could be like, okay, show me what you got. And if you can't fulfill the tasks that you promise, you will not get anywhere. You will be stagnant. And that's kind of the thing that I've learned through doing this podcast. The worst thing that can happen to anybody you try to contact is they say no. And you know, like I've reached out to many a high profile professional athlete, musician, actor, comedian, and the worst thing they can do is say no. And one of the things Benny said specifically is no is not a no as in negative. It's no as in the next opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from learning through the industry, working with guys like Ivan Sokolsky, working with guys like you, working with Ryan Harris and Nate Kreckman when I was at Altitude, you know, and working with many people, is you see that most of them, this is their second, third, fourth time in the same industry. They've heard no. They've moved on to the next step. They've been given opportunities. Cub Buning is a great example of somebody who's taken multiple opportunities in different fields within media, and the guy succeeded, but now he's back where he wants to be in education. You know, it's all about the path we want to take. And I think that's vitally important in any field.
100%. And it's also, Michael, about perseverance as well. There's certain things that a degree should teach you, but we don't emphasize. What I mean by that is when you go and get a 4-year degree, get a 4-year, 5-year degree or whatever, or even go through Colorado Media School, you learn finances. You learn how to deal with finances. You learn time management. You learn how to deal with being at a place on time or before time is one thing I always talked about when I was an instructor at Colorado Media School. And you always learn how to work with other people. So you're learning people skills, right? But one of the things too that is extremely important in this industry is persevering. And it's not just, I'm going to go through this 4 years, get through test after test, quiz after quiz, final exam, midterm, and poof, here's my degree. But it's learning that through this time, I had to persevere in order to get the reward, which was my degree. In journalism, you're not going to walk off the stage of graduating and be at the ESPNs or be at the networks from there. You're going to have to work your way up. And there's going to be a lot of pitfalls. There's going to be times where you're doing great and then you get, laid off or whatever. How do you bounce back from that? I remember one of my mentors was telling me that he said, you're not really a journalist until you get fired or until you get laid off. And I'm like, dude, I'm 23, 24 years old. I don't want to hear that, man. I just got this degree. I got student loans to pay, man. Everything should go well. And then once it happens, you're like, okay, he was right. And what he meant by that is you have to learn how to persevere through the disappointments, persevere when you bust your butt at one place and for some reason someone else gets the job that you were looking for. Okay, are you going to sulk about it or are you going to go and persevere to the next opportunity? And that's really what a lot of this industry is all about, is that you really have to persevere through different pieces and different places in order to get to where you want to be. And for sometimes it doesn't happen. And that's okay. But your biggest thing is you got to continue to go after your dreams, continue to go after your goals, and understand that every rep that you get is a good rep. So what I mean by that is, even as I'm talking to you right now, this is going to help me when I do a live shot. This is going to help me when I do play-by-play. This is going to help me when I anchor. And so you treat every opportunity that way, and you let it all come together, and you do your best, and you smile when you're on camera because you're looking good, baby. That's how you do it.
Yep. One of the things that I've always believed is look good, feel good. You know, it's vitally important. But that's perseverance is the most important thing we can teach anybody anymore. I think right now is, you know, nothing is handed to you. Nothing is given to you right away. You have to work for it. I can speak from experience as somebody who took a long time to get a degree. I'll be honest. It took me 10 years to get a 4-year degree, but there were a lot of loopholes and pitfalls along the way. And for a long time, I compared myself to others, which created that negative cycle of like, well, he's already working as a banker and he's already a lawyer and she's already a doctor and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. One of the things that I took away from that was everybody's path is different. All of us find a different groove, different path, different pattern.
Yes.
For me in particular, the pattern that came across, the most important pattern that came across for me when I got to the media school was I found out that I was not passionate about what I was focused on. And when I got to the media school, I found passion again, and it got me interested in the things that I was doing again. If you're forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do, you're not going to find the passion in it. You're going to get lost in the shuffle. You're going to get broken down. You're not going to want to do what you're doing. So if you're not focused on what you're passionate about, you're going to fall behind. I ended up getting that degree. I got an English degree. I found a niche in that world that I really loved. I thought I was going to be an educator, and it didn't work out that way for me. But I am millions of times happier working behind the scenes, working in traffic for television and working on play-by-play and doing this podcast and playing music and staying busy and staying focused and getting to, you know, talk to people like you, get to talk to people like Ryan Harris, you know, and guys in the industry who understand, you know, the struggle of what it takes to get to that point. Guys like Josh Dover. Dover is a very similar story. That guy worked his ass off to get a leadoff role at altitude and worked really, really hard to get there. And I think that's one of those things that we as a society, maybe it's my generation or the next generation behind us, I don't know. There are people in every generation who don't see the need for a work ethic or don't see the, you know, it's a gimme as a verse to what can I do to get where I need to go. Does that make sense?
Well, 100%. When you say gimme, I think one of the toughest things that people have to understand, again, is that a lot of times your disappointments are based off your own expectations, right? So it's based off your own timeline. So for example, a lot of times it could be when I'm 25, I should be here. When I'm 30, I should be here. Wife, kids, house. 35, I should be well settled into my career. 40, I should be beyond well into my career. I should be national. I should be whatever. What happens if it doesn't happen that way? Then based off your own expectations, now you're freaking out. Now you're starting to compare yourself to other people. Now you look over and say, wait a minute, this person on Instagram, they're at ESPN because they had this great post and now they're over here, or this person's over there. And you started to look at everybody else's life and you stop focusing on what you need to do to get you where you need to be. I think another thing too is that there's only so many positions. I love the game of football. I love football. Football is amazing, man. You know, there's 11 guys on each side of the field at any time. And even on special teams, man, the kicker is part of that 11, right? So you have 22 guys on the field at one time. What's interesting is even at the NFL level, you have 53 guys on a roster. The game day, you have, 48 or something around there, but you have 53 guys. In college, you have 70, 75, right, that are dressed out in uniform. But only 11 can get on the field. In the same way, everybody's fighting for these spots, but only a few have the chance to be on the field per se, or to be in those roles. So wherever you are, do the best that you can. Again, go back to network as best as you can, but work on your skills. So when you're called to go into the game, or you're called to have that opportunity or have that job, that you're able to execute flawlessly. Because when that opportunity comes, it may be just one time you get that opportunity, and that's it. That's it in your career. You may only get that one time, or you may only get it twice. So you got to be able to execute when you have that opportunity to go from there.
And that's the important thing. I think that's one of the things I take away from sports into life is it's about the preparation and the execution. And that's something that we don't, not everybody gets to see, you know, and the social media commentary that you just made is perfect. We only see what people present.
Easy.
And I think that's the part that a lot of people don't see. Like, I only post about the things that are going on. I don't post about the behind the scenes stuff. Nobody knows that I edit, book, and post this podcast by myself. Nobody knows that we spent 6 months writing a song that's going to get released in a month. You know, like, you don't see the grind that goes into what is being presented in that social media feed.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the same way, like in basketball, nobody sees someone taking 250 shots, 1,000 shots before a game, or even after a game or something like that. Like, everybody just thinks that it's kind of like instant oatmeal. Put some water in it, throw it in the microwave, and poof, here you are. But it's the failures, man, that make you so much better in your career. So I'm going to take it back to within journalism, what we're talking about. Like, man, all the mistakes that you make will help you to become better. You're like, don't want to do that. When you study other people and what they do, it's like, okay, this person does this. I'll tell you one thing. So I was doing sports anchoring last week. And I don't know when this is going to be on air, but I feel this is a great example. And as I'm in the studio, I'm doing sports minding. So it's kind of two different gear shifts that I have. I do sports while I do news. Sports, more energy, generally quicker, 2:33 minutes, you're in and out the door. But as I'm in there, I'm studying Jim Beneman and what he's doing. And not just how does he speak to the when he's looking at the teleprompter, but what are his mannerisms? Where is his arms at? How does he control the camera so that when you look at him, you know that it's an authoritative figure that's speaking to you? Those are the things that I'm looking at, and I study. How does Jim do that? Because Jim has been in the business for 20, 30 years, at a high level, doing a tremendous job. That's where I want to be. So I'm not just going to look at, okay, here's what I'm doing, and then, okay, I'll figure it out. I want to look at somebody who's been doing it for years and doing it at a high level and mimic what they do. And so that's the same thing. Mimic what somebody who you want to be. Mimic what they're doing. You're doing play-by-play, mimic the best, period. How do they call a game? I think Mark Johnson up at CU, best in the business. How does he call a game? Can you close your eyes and see where the ball is in football and basketball? Can you do that? Kevin Harlan, for example, as well, right? We know with TNT, CBS, all these other different places. There's a reason why he's there. Are you mimicking what they're doing, or are you just trying to figure it out, do your own thing? Because if you want to be where the best is, do what they do and, go from there.
I was really fortunate to work for CSU and work with Brian Roth directly. And that guy, man, I'll tell you what, he is a consummate professional, massive pro. Even in a tough game, he doesn't, lose that feel of excitement. And working with him directly was a big part of why I wanted to get back into play-by-play and do that.
Yeah.
Specifically, listening to him describe the action on the field, I knew exactly where they were. I knew who was where, what was going to happen. Like, you can feel the energy. And Mark Johnson's one of the best in the business. That guy is that voice is a presence in its own.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to also interview and have a relationship with Jerry Shimmel. And so I got to hear Jerry talk about basketball and actually coming up with Kevin Harlan. They both worked for the Minnesota Timberwolves when the T-Wolves first started. So that's, hearing those stories and listening to how Kevin Harlan really developed his voice through that process. And, my favorite Kevin Harlan call isn't even a sports call. It was when I think it was a Niners game 2 years ago, and a drunk man was on the field, and he was running around. He's drunk. He's on the field. He's at the 20, the 30. Oh, and he's tackled. There will be no touchdown for him tonight. And, just hearing him call it was like, he turned a moment of negativity into a moment of humor because, someone did something stupid and he got an opportunity out of it.
Yeah, and he also got a read-in, I believe, as well. Got a commercial, which was pretty good. I was like, how did he do that?
That's a pro move.
Let me give you a quick story about Jerry Shimmel, which connects with Brian Roth. And it just – another thing, too, this business is very, very small.
Yes.
Don't
Yes,
burn
it
any
is.
bridges. Unless if you're making multi-millions of dollars and you feel like being done after this job,
Right.
I wouldn't burn any bridges. No use to doing that. But I remember doing a game with Brian Roth. So I worked with him for Comcast Entertainment Television. I was doing color commentary. He was doing play-by-play. But again, him doing play-by-play allowed me to get a chance to say, okay, how does he set up a game? What type of things does he do? So it helps me out with play-by-play. While I'm doing color commentary, gives me a chance also to get some reps doing on-air camera as well. And so I get to take that to Channel 4, and now I'm just like, wow, it all goes together. But he told me one thing that he was having a conversation with Jerry Shimmel, and he was asking him, he was like, man, when a game's a blowout, and it's just tough and it's rough out there, and your team's down by 30, and it's like 10 minutes to go in the second half, and you feel like you got to fill, like, what do you do? And Jerry Shimmel told him, that's when you work on your game the most. That's when you need to go and be at your best the most right there. Because everybody could be at their best with a 62-61, man, 30 seconds to go. And, team has the ball for the last shot. Everybody's on their game right there. But can you hold an audience attention for 10 minutes when it's a blowout and your team is getting blown out? Can you do that? That's the difference of what separates the average from the great, is the people that could do that. And you know what? Hiring managers, Learfield Sports, people like that, they look at that as well. And so it's extremely important to be able to do that. But Jerry Shimmel always talked about that. Even with Shim, I talked with him as well. And he talked about, man, there's times where his energy will get low when he was working with the Colorado Rockies. And then it will snap into his mind and says, you know what? How can I complain about my energy being low when I'm literally talking about these guys who are busting their butt on the field? You have no excuse. So I need to go and get myself together and do my best. And so just always appreciate talking to those guys, but make sure that those are the guys you always get the chance to look at, to listen to talk to, because if you want to go and get in this business and be at a high level, do what they did in order to get there.
Exactly. And it's sometimes always interesting that people in those industries respect people who mimic or try to find ways to make what they do like to their level and then better. There's great examples of that throughout history. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Joe Buck's style, but the more I learn about how broadcasting works and how the sport works, the guy does exactly what he needs to do for the market that he's in. Yes. And the way that he lets the audience kind of tell the story reminds me a lot of Pat Summerall. Pat Summerall was the same way in his later years. He would just say, like, who had the ball, where the play was going, and then he would let the crowd tell you what was happening. If it was a big play, he didn't have to say too much. And then, you see those moments and those patterns. And it's really interesting because I feel like now, more than ever, because of the state of the world that we're in, play-by-play announcers have to do even more because there is no crowd. Like, there is no audience. I've been hesitant because the season just started to reach out to Mark Mosier and try to talk to him about how different it is now in the NHL, how the bubble kind of affected all of that. I'd love to talk to Kaz about the impact of the Nuggets and not having that hometown crowd in those things. How have you seen it from the anchor perspective, how much that's changed sports in a way?
Best thing, and some would argue this, but I think it's the best thing that ever happened in sports. In one sense, and I get it, you want fans around. You want so many different things to be around and to happen. So I could say one of the best. But in the sense of when I'm telling stories, now you got to dig in deep to talk about more than just a game, truly, truly more than just a game. And it really gets you to the 21st century of broadcasting, especially in sports nowadays, because people can see the box score. Let's be honest. If I was looking at the Nuggets game and it's 9:30, I've seen the game before it goes on 10. For the most part, you've seen the game. Now you want to hear about it. Well, unless I get the whole altitude, the Comcast thing. I get that. But
yeah, we don't need to go there.
We don't need to go there. But for the most part, You could go on your phone and find out what happened. You could see the highlights already cut on ESPN for what happened. So there has to be a different level of why should I pay attention? Why should I listen to you when I already have this in my hand? So you tell your stories differently. You craft everything a little bit different to tell the story of the game that just transpired. It's no more just reading the highlights. But what it does open up is an opportunity to talk about these guys and to dive in deep into who they are. That's the best part. So, for example, when the pandemic hit, one of the things I had a chance to do was I was like, okay, on this date, this is what happened. So The Last Dance came out. Talk with LaFonso Ellis about when the Nuggets beat the Chicago Bulls in '96. It was a thrilling game. And I remember as a kid watching Channel 2, watching that game. And, Dennis Rodman, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, all these guys over there, right? And seeing our little Nuggets, who seemed like they couldn't beat anybody. But our little Nuggets was able to go and get that dub. Man, that was beautiful. But you're able to tell that story from then and now bring it over till today. Talk to, I believe it was not Adam Deadmarsh, Alex Tanguay, I believe.
Yeah.
I was talking with him. Alex Tanguay, yeah, talk with him about, hey, 2001, winning the Stanley Cup. Everybody knows about Joe Sakic heading the cup to Raymond Bourque. What people may not know was the year before when he lost to Dallas, Alex Tanguay, who was a rookie, had a terrible postseason. And he went into the offseason talking about, hey, I'm going to get myself better. I'm going to be a better player, all these different things. Well, lo and behold, now you get into Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals. And, yeah, Joe Sakic had a goal to make it 3-0, but it was Alex Tanguay who had 2 goals to get things rolling from there, right? So now you're able to bring that in. My favorite story, and I'll end it right here because I could talk forever. My favorite story was talking about when the Nuggets beat the Seattle Supersonics. First 8 to beat a 1. And it's easy to bring back footage of Dikembe Mutombo and to talk about Robert Pack and Bison Dele, rest in peace, and what they did, right? It is so fun to see that. But then somewhere close to the end, I asked LaFonso Ellis, wait a minute. You're in this big old house, I would imagine, and for some reason you're sitting right behind this picture of what looks to be like you dunking over Sean Kemp. And so to ask him a question about what's that picture all about? Well, then he told me the story. Hey, this guy named Bart Bacon, who was from Smoky Hill High School, one of his best friends, drew him the picture right after that series was over. So after the season, drew him that picture. And oh, by the way, he's been wanting that picture back because he didn't believe that the people that were in the background, the fans looked like humans, right? They didn't look like a big old crowd in the background. So he always wanted to go and do something always wanted to retouch it. And to hear LaFonso Ellis say he's not going to get his hands back on this photo or this picture, it's something that is like nobody ever talked about. So now you're bringing in something that happened years ago and now making it current with the fact that you didn't know. Those are the stories that you could tell right now because of the pandemic.
And I think that's one of the biggest parts is it's always nice to hear the stories behind the stories. That's one of the things I loved about The Last Dance in particular was hearing the stories behind the choices they made, the roster decisions, guys like Horace Grant, hearing more from him, Bill Winnington, even hearing, how when Jordan came back and was like, are you ready to win a championship? Winnington was like in shock and then was like, let's do this,
Right.
The relationship with Scotty Burrell and Jordan, but also like learning more about guys like Dennis Rodman. The Last Dance made me go get his first book.
Yeah.
Like I read Bad as I Want to Be and listening to those stories and following the story of the Bad Boy Pistons a little bit more. I mean, I grew up in the era of the bad Nuggets as you did,
Whoa. Don't say bad Nuggets now. You're giving them that's a compliment if you say bad Nuggets. Mike, let me ask you, how old are you, if I may ask, Mike?
I'm 34.
Okay, so you were born in what?
86.
86, so same year as me. So you remember the Nuggets where they were so bad they won 11 games.
Yep.
So that was the year of The Last Dance when they won 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize they were so bad that if someone gave you a ticket, it was almost like someone cussing at you.
Yeah.
How bad they were.
Yeah, McNichols was empty.
Terrible.
If people don't know that you had to buy, so my dad's company had season tickets to the Nuggets, had season tickets to the Avalanche.
Right.
The thing about it was you had to buy Nuggets season tickets to buy Avalanche season tickets. That's how bad they were.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad.
My dentist growing up was their dentist. Was the Nuggets dentist. So I got free tickets from him that were courtside seats, which were great when I was a little kid, but we knew they sucked.
Right.
The Tony Battie era here was not good.
God, there are certain names that I didn't think I would hear. Tony Battie was not a name I thought that I would wake up today and hear.
No. Well, but he had the funny thing is Tony Battie had two bad eras. He had the bad Nuggets era and the bad Celtics era. So it's not pretty for good Mr. Tony there. But that's the interesting thing is, so you and I being the same age, you played in college then with a couple guys I went to high school with.
Okay.
So Stephon Robinson being one of them.
Man, one of my close friends, man.
Yeah, I love Steph.
God, man, Steph is
yeah.
Probably here's the thing about Steph, man, and he'll laugh about this, but Steph probably had some of the biggest triceps I've ever seen in my life, man.
Right?
We used to do dips, and I'll go in there, I'm a little walk on, I'm do my dips. I'm like, yeah, 20, 21, yeah. You go in there do like 45, and you're like, dude, are you serious? And I mean, like, and there's certain people who just like kind of do a little bit where they kind of touch the tricep a little bit, but they don't go all the way down and all the way back up. He's doing 45, going all the way full motion, man. You like certain things in life. You're like, you know what? That's not my gift, man. That's not my spiritual gift.
No,
not doing that.
But he was the men among boys in high school. So, him and Brian Daniels used to be torture machines in the gym when I was a freshman in high school playing freshman football at Mullen, and dealing with them was always fun because come on, Mike, quit messing with me here. It was always fun messing with those guys because I also ran track with Steph's sister. So, and we were in the same class. So that was another connection, but it's always funny to like realize how small the world is when you're from Denver and then you go to stay in those Colorado schools and you stay in those networks and you keep it even smaller. It's always fun, but I talk to Steph every once in a while. I'll keep up with them and the family and see how everybody's doing. But it's always fun to like make those small connections every once in a while. But yeah, he had big triceps in high school, man. That dude was crazy strong.
I mean, yeah, man. Steph is I think he's coaching now at Creek.
He's under Dave Logan at Creek. They're back-to-back champs.
Yeah, great coach and great players, man.
Yep.
There's your recipe.
That's how it is. And so to kind of tie that together, how are you feeling about what CU's bringing to the table right now? They had a good, strong showing in a shortened year. What are you expecting for the next year for 2021?
All depends on your quarterback. CU hasn't had a quarterback that was drafted since the mid-'90s. We're in 2021. Oof. So at some point, you have to get a quarterback who is going to be drafted. I like the kid that they have. There's a young man. He's a freshman. Played a couple of plays. I can't think of his name to save his life right now. But they have some talent. It's great to get Nate Landman back. Hopefully he could be back from his Achilles injury. I think that's huge to have him back. They got a 5-star transfer from Oklahoma who could play linebacker as well as safety. They're going to need that as well. Mustafa Johnson leaving is going to hurt a little bit on the D-line, but you know what? You still have some dogs up front. And so the biggest thing for CU, and it's always been this way, is that same thing with the Denver Broncos. We can talk about them too.
Yeah.
Have to have an identity. When you play Stanford, 2 tight ends, fullback, running back, here we go. And they're going to have a quarterback that is sufficient enough ever so often will be able to get into the NFL, but they're going to have a system and they're going to roll with it. Oregon, they will spread you out. Ever so often they'll run the ball, but they'll have speed and talent all over the place. Colorado has to get to where they have a true identity because it's easier to find players to plug and chug when you have an identity. It's hard when you don't have it and you're trying to figure it out. I felt Sam Noria did a tremendous job this year. He's what you needed. There was guys who just weren't ready, and Sam Noyer did a fantastic job. Once he hurt his shoulder, he wasn't the same. And so it's important that the Buffs, as they've seen when they got beaten by Texas, beaten soundly,
Yep.
that those are the type of talent that you need. Don't try to go get the Oregon talents and all this other stuff. No. You need the talent that beats you against Texas, because if you have that type of talent, you're going to be fine against the Oregons, against the USCs, the UCLAs of the world. And so I feel that things are definitely trending up with the calm and the general that they have in Carl Durrell. They have a foundation. Now they need to go and put that imprint on who they are, what type of identity they will be, and then have some fun. Because CU is linebacker U. When I was there, Jordan Diazon, Akarika Don, Brian Ewu, so many other different guys that I played with. It was linebacker U for real. And they could get back to that as well. But it all starts with getting that identity.
Well, and if you look at the NFL now, there's 5 DBs in the league right now that are playing big minutes on big teams who are doing things. You have Awuzie in Dallas, you got Witherspoon in San Francisco. They've got pieces all over the NFL. It's not in the key pieces where you see schools starting to pick up momentum and start moving in the right direction. You don't have a Justin Herbert in the quarterback position. CSU has 4 star caliber wide receivers in the NFL right now who are all playing pretty well when healthy.
Rashad Higgins, Olabisi, who else?
Preston Williams in Miami.
Side note, Preston Williams, out of all of them, might be the best. And the reason why he went undrafted, he did not have a good showing at the pro day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that vividly at CSU's pro day. But man, when you look at all the talent that you have there coming out of CSU, oh my God, they have some players, man. They got some ballers coming out there. So again, even for CU is just, hey, I know Steve Adazio's up there at CSU, didn't have a chance to play all his games that he wanted to this year, but it's about getting that foundation, getting that identity, and going from there. Another thing too, Michael, which is extremely important, you can't keep every kid that you want.
Right.
You can't keep every top-tier talent. You don't have the bevy of talent that you have in Texas, California, in the South. You don't have that. It's just a reality. It's a numbers game. So you have to make sure that you keep as much of the best talent as possible in state. And if you don't do that, that's an issue. If Nebraska comes into Colorado and grabs some of your best talent, there's an issue, And so you got to make sure that you do that. There's a kid who plays at Valor Christian right now, Gavin Sawchuk, who's being predicted to go to Oklahoma. He is a legit 4.4, 4.3 speed kid. I mean, when he gets everything together, he is legit that guy. That's the type of talent you have to keep in Colorado. You go supplement the rest in California and Texas and all these other places. But the best in Colorado has to stay in state.
And I think that's vitally important to keep the interest of college football in Colorado. I think that's one of the interesting things about living here my whole life and being a part of that is, we enjoyed Saturdays because we had CU, we had CSU, we have Air Force, but it was always about Sunday here. And, the Broncos are king. It's still that case, even though they aren't the best team in the state anymore. I reserve that for my proud and true Colorado Avalanche right now.
Come on. You can let that pride fly. Look, they better win the cup, by the way.
If they don't, it's going to be a disappointment. And that's crazy to think about. But to tie it into the Broncos really fast, I have been, and you may have seen this on my Facebook, and I've been getting some grief for this, so I will openly admit that. Okay. I am okay with the idea of keeping Vic Fangio, Pat Shurmur, and the staff together for one more year.
Okay.
My reasoning behind this is this. I have always been a stanchion of consistency. I feel like the teams that struggled the most, the Cleveland Browns of the past, like when the Raiders were really bad and the Chargers were really bad, they were cycling through head coaches. They were cycling through offensive coordinators. And that's the issue I feel like we've run into in Denver is we've hit that downward spiral. And most of the biggest thing for me is they're not going to solve anything until they solve the ownership issue as it stands. So Why shuffle the decks on the Titanic, shuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic if you're not going to be able to fix the problem next year anyway, why not give this team with all this talent one more shot with the current regime and stance? Because the glimpses of hope are there. There's pieces there. We were riddled with injuries and every layer of that team had injuries from DB to QB. Everybody was hurt.
Right.
But you run into a situation where people are like, Drew Lock's not the guy. Fangio sucks at clock management. Pat Shurmur doesn't know how to call plays. John Elway's a moron. Versus there's no real ownership at the moment. Drew Lock was hurt for portions of this year and doesn't necessarily have a ton of experience behind him going into his third year. Fangio may have made some mistakes, but he's not the villain in this situation. And Pat Shurmur got the offense rolling at the interesting time that kind of cost us a top 5 draft pick. but the pieces are there. The pieces are there. And I think, what do you think about the idea of consistency being kind of important in this time frame?
Consistency is always king. It's always a big thing to have that. Consistency is king. But you know what else is king? What's the joker? Is being able to have a quarterback.
Right.
And that's just the reality of this team. Peyton Manning will make Vic Fangio look like the best quarterback in history. Heck, we'll see what happened with Bill Belichick. And don't get me wrong, Bill Belichick is one of the best, if not the best, coaches we've ever seen in a game. It doesn't hurt to have Tom Brady too.
Nope.
And so if you have that type of talent and that type of leader, it makes you as a head coach look a lot better. Or it takes the weight off of what you have to do. You can look at other different areas, right? And so, for Vic Fangio, his thing this year going into what could be his last season, if this is not a winning team, if they do not get into the playoffs. And it's easier now than ever to get into the playoffs because of that extra wild card spot. It's about, can you go and have Drew Lock in his third year, mature and be the guy, truly the guy? Can he be that guy? Can your defense improve? Injuries or not, despite the injuries that you had with Von Miller and so many others on defense, Malik Reed, who's an undrafted free agent, led the team in sacks with 8. So you're doing something right, but can you, at every different area, can you be able to improve? You have close games that you lost a 1-point game at the beginning of the season to Tennessee that you shouldn't have lost. Well, guess what? Those are the games you have to win. Next year, the Broncos have to go and steal a couple games, and they have to go and do it early. And the thing with Vic Fangio is his first year, team started 0-4. Last year, they started 0-3. What used to happen with the Broncos is they started 2-0 or 3-0, and then they kind of would taper off towards the end of the year. Vic Fangio has to get off to a better start. I don't care who they play. I don't care what the schedule is. You have to start winning games from the get-go. Start to get some belief in the locker room and belief with the team, and then go from there. That's extremely important. But for next year, consistency is important, but it's all about everybody maturing, playing better, and you got to get this team back into the playoffs.
Oh, amen. I completely agree. And that's one of the things I think I would love to see an off-season, and I know I'm using all the cliche excuses because I'm an armchair quarterback and GM. It's how I've been my entire life.
We all are, by the way. We all are. We don't. Come on, man. Nobody knows what's going on inside. Here's the one thing I'll say, and we'll continue on. But when I played at CU, the one thing I did know, and I knew this kind of early, was that media has an idea of what's going on, but they really don't fully know what's going on in the locker room. You could think you know so much, but you truly don't know what's all going on. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
Oh, that's all good.
Apologize. Grandfather's calling. All right, he has to call back later. Sorry, Granddad. I love you, man. We gotta talk later. But you really don't know. And so you could take a guess as much as possible. You could talk to as many guys as possible, but you don't fully know what's going on. We're all playing armchair quarterback. What we all know is results. At the end of the day, we know Tom Brady, NFC Championship game. We know Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, 3 years in a row, they're hosting the AFC Championship game. We know Justin Herbert is going to be a stud in this league. We know that. What do we know about Drew Lock? I do know this. He tied the NFL for the most interceptions in the league last year. That's what I do know. That's what I know. 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. That's what I know. 4-9 record. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. So you could talk about, hey, He needs to improve next year, all these different things. The reality is this. If we're not seeing 9 wins, 10 wins, if you can't stay healthy, then you got to make sure that you have a backup plan in place, or you got to go make a move when you get to the draft right now, or with a free agent signing, or in a trade. Because if this franchise is going to move forward, it starts at quarterback.
Oh, 100%. And if you look at the teams that have been successful, it's the teams with quarterbacks in the league. The 4 teams in the final right now all have quality quarterbacks or really good systems. I'm a big Josh Allen fan. So
yes. But you know what? And this is one thing too. People talk about Broncos should have got Josh Allen, all this other stuff. Well, you didn't.
Nope. Can't look back. Hindsight.
Can't look back. You didn't get him. Move on. And the other part of the coin too is when you look at all the quarterbacks, they're dynamic. All of them are dynamic in one way or the other. Aaron Rodgers, come on, man. Him and Devontae Adams, get out of here. And he's been, man, look, Aaron Rodgers makes scrubs look tremendous, man. He gets guys paid, all right? Like, I look at the people that Aaron Rodgers is throwing to, and I'm like, who is this dude with 10 touchdowns? Who is this guy? But
Ryan Tanyan got paid this year. I'm telling you what.
My point exactly, right? Patrick Mahomes, duh. By the way, best player on that team, Travis Kelce.
Oh, hands down.
Don't care what anybody says. Travis Kelce makes that thing move, man. It is ridiculous what he could do.
He's probably the best route running tight end I've ever seen. Get out of here.
I love him, man. He is so ridiculous. But you just look at the quarterbacks. You look at who they have. Tom Brady. It's the same team pretty much. Add Gronk, add Antonio Brown, which ain't bad. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no.
You add those 2 guys, and who you really added? The quarterback. Where are they going? As a wild card NFC Championship game.
Well, and if you think about it, look at the difference. You have famous Jameis 30-30 the year before. Same core. You added a couple pieces on the offensive side. Didn't change the defense one bit. I will say this for New England this year, being in a COVID year, they lost a lot of their defensive talent to opting out. No Dante Hightower.
You talk about that.
Yeah, no linebackers. You lost pretty much that entire linebacker core. Nobody really thinks about that aspect of it for them. No. One thing I will say about the Broncos that I will like to see, I would be curious to see Locke and Shermer with this core as it stands now, with a full training camp offseason to really implement everything. Right. I will take one player off that offense as a perfect example of what coaching can do. Garrett Bowles.
Yes.
A man who was literally everyone wanted to run him out of Denver.
Right.
This last year. The number 3 tackle in the entire NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. Number 3. The guy who got a holding penalty every time. It was a joke that if the flag was thrown, it was going to be holding on the offense, number 72. To have 3 penalties called on him this year, I think 2 of them were false starts, and did not allow a single sack. That is growth, and that is proof that a coaching staff can make a difference. I would be curious to see what a full offseason with Pat Shurmur getting involved, having Cortland Sutton back at 100%, Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, an offensive line that is super young and showing signs of growing together. You think about Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis. That offensive line is incredible.
Incredible, yeah.
And you and I could stand back there for 5 seconds and find somebody open.
Yeah, especially if they're paying me millions of dollars. I stand back there for 7. How many million you paying me? I will stand. Where you need me to throw the ball? Yes, T.Y. Hilton. Take that ball. Love it. Well, the Broncos getting Jawan James back as well, so that's your investment you made at right tackle. So that should help out a lot. But again, we talk about the pieces. We talk about how good they all look. It all sounds good until you get on the field. It sounds good, right? Until we get everybody on the field. But it's all about executing. Yeah, it's not more about names and talking about it, but you got to execute.
Well, and that's any sport. I mean, if you look, the same situation with the Colorado Avalanche. You add Brandon Saad, you add Devon Taves, you bring in all these talented pieces that fit the mold of what you're trying to do. You come out the first game and lay a 5-3 dud in front of, nobody, but you lay a dud, and then you come back 2 days later,
Right,
and drop an 8-0 butt kicking on a team that you have struggled to beat in years.
Mhm.
You put yourself in that position to show that you're going to be the dominant team. And I think that that's something that maybe the Broncos need to invest in is they got to find, exactly like you said, they need to find that identity. What is their identity? Are they a run first offense? Are they a pass first offense?
Mhm.
Are they a zone defense? Are they a man defense? What is the focus going to be coming into this next season for them? And I think that's going to be more important than who the head coach is at this point.
Yeah.
And who's going to be at quarterback. I think finding an identity is the more important thing.
Yeah, I think the Broncos, they tell you what they want to be. It's all about executing that, right? They're a zone team. Vic Fangio runs his defense rather, basically out of zone, man-to-man ever so often, but mostly zone. And then on offense, it's a 3-by-1 set, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end. That's your team. Give me 1 running back. They run a lot out of shotgun. They did a lot of counter plays, power runs. That's who they are. They just didn't execute. Just the reality. No, I mean it is what it is, right? And so for Drew Lock to go into another year where he actually doesn't have to learn a new playbook, man, that helps out so much.
Well, and that's, I think, the one thing that I was talking about with consistency. Like if you're bringing Pat Shurmur back for another year, you're not learning a whole new scheme. You're not having to learn new language. I forget who it was. I think it was Matt Stafford said that the hardest part about being a quarterback isn't being a quarterback. It's learning a new language every year when your offensive coordinator gets fired.
Yes.
And he said, and then I believe it was like either Brett Favre said that like the terminology is generally the same, but the language is different. So like every route is the same. There's always X, Y, there's always X, there's always Y, there's always Z. But what one coach calls like a jet fire Z left is not what this coach determines that play to be. So you're having to learn a completely different language for a different coach. I think that right there alone will show an example of how Drew Lock can grow. If he's the same guy, I will eat my crow and say exactly what I said. I will be honest and say I was wrong. I want to see Drew Lock succeed. I want to see him be the franchise guy in Denver. If that's not the case, then gladly move on.
And this is the thing, though. It's not just about him being the franchise guy. You need somebody who's going to compete and beat Patrick Mahomes. Okay, you may not get the guy who's able to do that then, right? Because that's a tall task. Patrick Mahomes, arguably best quarterback in the NFL, and I say arguably because Aaron Rodgers is doing things that are ridiculous this year as well. And Aaron Rodgers should be the MVP. But when you look at, he's young. Patrick Mahomes is young. 25 now?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, last time I checked, Tom Brady's in his 40s playing ball. So you look at least Patrick Mahomes for the next 10, 12, 13 years, 14 years, right?
As long as Kansas City can pay him.
Too. He ain't going nowhere. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about a decade and a half. Is Drew Lock going to be the guy for the next decade and a half? Take it to Ben Roethlisberger. I'm looking at him in 05. 04, he played as a rookie.
Yep.
05, he won the Super Bowl. We're in 2021, man. That's 16 years later. Phillip Rivers just retired. He played 17 seasons. So when you find that guy, you hold on to him for a while. But if you don't have that guy, then you're always got to be searching to make sure you have the franchise quarterback. Because if you don't, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. It's just a reality. There's a reason why the Broncos were able to get to 5 Super Bowls under John Elway, because they had that guy. If you don't have him, good luck.
Right. Well, Justin, I've taken up an hour of your time, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming in. This is the opportunity on the show where I give my guests the opportunity to promote anything they need to promote, anywhere you want to send people. Right now, Justin, the floor is yours.
Oh, man, I appreciate you, Michael. Hey, you know what? Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's Justin Adams TV. Again, Justin Adams TV. Anchoring news on the weekends at CBS 4. Watch me at 7 o'clock from 7 to 8 every Saturday and Sunday. I'm on the morning show as well, 4:30 to 9. Well, 4:30 to 7. Good God, it'd be 4:30 now. It'd be tough. But 4:30 to 7, CBS 4 in the morning show on the weekday. Monday, Tuesday, Friday, I'm on, and let's have fun, man. Let's just talk life, and let's do some great things together. And I'd tell you what, one thing for journalists out there, you're good enough. The moment you decide to be a journalist, like what Michael is doing right now, you're good enough. So be that. Take care of your mind, take care of your health, and most importantly, love God, love people. Love God, love people. Everything else will fall into place.
No, I appreciate that, man. I have one last question. I'm probably going to cut this one just because it's funny to me. Who's funnier, Romy or Michael or you?
Neither. Ryan Green is the funniest guy out there, man.
Okay,
Dude,
okay.
Ryan, here's the thing, man. Ryan has his jokes. He has some outwardly hilarious jokes.
Okay.
And then he has little jokes that he pokes at, and you're like, yeah, but that's funny. Like, oh, come on, man. Great sense of humor, man, dude.
Okay.
Look, being able to be back there with those guys, but just to be in the presence of them is awesome. And I tell you what, there's a reason why we have so much fun on air, because what we get to do in the background, man, it's a great group.
Nice.
Dang right, man. Hey, we try to have fun. Look, man, look, life's too short, man. Have fun, enjoy it. Do what you got to do. Make your money. Don't get me wrong. Better make that money. You got bills to pay.
Yep.
But have fun, man. Golly, there's so much pain and hurt in the world, man. Have fun and bring some light to somebody else.
Always, man. Thank you so much, Justin. I'll definitely have you back on anytime you want, man. You're a permanent guest fixture.
Michael, I appreciate it. Hey, I'll make it a step further. You give me a call when you need me, man. I'll be on anytime you need me.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you, my friend. Be blessed.
Take care. Peace.
It almost feels like someone else is living my life. 'Cause it almost